Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to this very special Valentine's webinar, Adore Yourself First. I'm your host, Grace Kelly, alongside Karen DeMarco, and we're going to do a short introduction, a little bit about ourselves before we get started, because we realize there's a number of you here that maybe are meeting us for the first time. So Karen, do you want to share a little bit about what you do and why we're sharing this topic?
Yeah, sure. And for all those who do know me, there'll be a little bit of repeat, but it's kind of, I would say, the substance behind this webinar and why I was so excited to do this with Grace. You know, we've just been having some conversations about how loving yourself or adoring yourself first, not just loving yourself, because that's so trite, right? Love yourself. You know, it's like, okay, great. Well, how do I do that? Well, for me, it saved my life. I mean, really. I mean, I was, you know, since the time I was born, I said this on our introduction for the, when we were talking about the topic on that little video, promo video we did, Grace. But yeah. I grew up, you know, we all have this, this kind of ingrained genetic thing to people please. It's part of, it's hardwired into our DNA. It's why we're here as a species still, because if you didn't please Ankh and get that little dopamine hit, you know, you get kicked out. If you weren't of value to the tribe, you know, you may very well get kicked out. So it's in us to do this people pleasing thing and to kind of be concerned about what our tribe, you know, whether or not we're contributing to our tribe. But it's like an appendix now, because it's like a fourth stomach. You know, we don't need it for our survival anymore, but that that tendency is still hardwired into us. So for me, it was bastardized so severely when I was a child. I didn't want to be left behind. That was like my thing. I didn't want anybody to not like me. And yeah, there was childhood trauma and all that stuff. But for me, the thing was, okay, I don't want anybody to leave behind. I don't want my big brothers to leave me behind. I don't want my parents to leave me for some reason. Okay. And then I made up, in order to not be left behind, people have to like me. And in order for people, now this is all what I'm making up, what I learned from my culture, from my family, from my parents, in order for people to not like me so that I'm not left behind, I have to be smart. I have to be athletic. I have to be thin. I have to be pretty. I have to be witty. I have to be all of these things. And then I made up what it meant to do that. So this led to just constantly always trying this algorithm in my head. If I wear this, say this, do that, A, then B will occur. And if B doesn't work, then go to C to please, you know, D, you know, and it was just like constantly all day long box checking and trying to project myself into other people's minds and predict how they were going to perceive me or think of me. We all do this to some extent, but by the time I was 37 years old, because right now I'm a mom and I'm a wife, and so there's all these other boxes, what it means to be a good mom, what it means to be a dutiful wife, what it means to be a good daughter, and la la la. So 90% of my headspace in my thinking all day long, every day, was either about food and diet and my body and what that looked like, or what somebody thought of me, or guilt, you know, raised in an Italian household. I think it's kind of the same if you're raised in an Irish Catholic household, right, Grace? It's just like, if you don't do these things, you'll go to hell even, right? So by the time I was 37, I was so sick, because all of this constant hypervigilance for what everybody thought of me had kept my nerve. Now I understand, and this is what I do for a living, right? I teach this stuff. But the hypervigilance had made me so ill. I had dementia, I had chronic fatigue, I had fibromyalgia, I had a Lyme disease that I couldn't recover from. And I just, one day, I won't get into more of the story because I want to turn it over to Grace so she can kind of tell her bit and why we're doing this together and why this topic is so near and dear to our hearts. There was a day when I was 37 years old where I just saw what I had been doing to myself. Actually, I didn't even see what I had been doing to myself. I was just exhausted. And I was so convinced that if I stopped doing that, I would actually die. Like if somebody was disappointed in me or if somebody didn't like me, that was like death to me, because I was like, I'm going to be left behind, right? the whole tribe's going to kick me out. But it was kind of this moment where I'm like, I don't care. I just can't do it anymore. You know, my husband's going to divorce me. My kids won't like me. My parents are going to disown me, and all my friends are going to leave me, but at least I'll have myself, you know, at least I will close this gap between who I've made up that the world needs me to be and who I really am. And the gap closed. And within all of that thinking that was in my head my whole life, and the people pleasing and the trying to control other people's perceptions of me, all of a sudden went, it was gone. And I walked around in this space of quiet for a couple weeks after that. It was like, but the funny thing was, nobody left me, you know, and I had all this space. And in 2 weeks, all of my illnesses and symptoms, my eating disorder, I had an eating disorder from the age of 11. I remember the day it started, and the age of 37. It almost killed me a couple times. And it just left, because the reason that all that behavior was there was because of the gap. And my body healed and my energy returned. And there's more and more examples of this since that day throughout my life that I've seen. It didn't just heal my body, it healed my business. You know, I keep seeing the gap. I keep seeing the gap in my life. And I love, for the rest of my life, it's this playful, where am I not being true to myself? Where is there still misunderstandings where I'm holding myself to a certain standard that was made up by society? And that's really not me. I just learned it from someone else. And just getting to know myself more and more and more for the rest of my life is just so delicious. And the things that happen in my life, the more that gap closes, is miraculous. I'm sure you could say kind of the same, Grace.
That's beautiful, Karen. Well, before I talk a bit, if you don't mind, I think the audience will probably be asking this question, so we'll see. But can you talk a little bit about how that gap gets closed? What do you see there? You know, because that sounded like a moment of enlightenment almost. But for the people listening, you know, what do you see about closing the gap between who you are and who the world says you should be?
I think it's how we were born to live. You know, maybe we're all born enlightened, but to me, enlightenment is just this moment where people have this massive, and they really get in touch with their, whether you want to call it source or God, or, you know, their true nature, or whatever your word is for it. When we're born innocently, you know, it's the messages from our parents and from our culture, but innocently, you know, the first time you hear, that's not ladylike, boys don't cry, fake it till you make it, clean your plate, but I'm not hungry, doesn't matter, there's kids starving, oh, okay, so if I clean my plate, kids won't starve, and that's up to me, okay. You know, but our parents, our culture, our society, our clergy, our religions, you know, we get all of these messages from the moment we're able to understand language that bastardizes that hardwired thing to not get kicked out of the tribe. So now it's not like, are you a good forager? Are you a good parent? Are you a good, like, those basic, you know, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs stuff, the basic stuff that we're do for each other as human beings. It's, you're going up the ladder now. It's like, don't be selfish. Oh, okay, so you want me to do what you want to do, and that's not selfish of you, you know, like, but the gap gets opened. We get pried apart from who we truly are. And I can get into the biology and the nervous system part of what this looks like on a, not only a quantum level, but a cellular level, a societal level, a personal level. It's all the same things. But this gap opening, am I tracking here with your question, Grace?
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome.
How I scroll off. There's this fantastic, I use this video. It's a French animated cartoon called Skizine. I can put it in the events thing, a link to it on YouTube, but it's such a powerful metaphor for what this does to us. And there's this, so the cartoon is this guy is he hears a ruckus outside his apartment, right? And he hangs his head out the window to look around and see what it is. And this meteor goes right outside his window, a meteor, right? So he gets knocked out and he comes to, and when he wakes up, he's 91 centimeters outside of himself. So here's his body and here's his soul. Okay, so it's exactly what I'm talking about. But in the cartoon, he doesn't see what he can do to close the gap. Mm. Instead, which would be the simplest thing, right? It would be, what he does is he measures all around his apartment. There's these measurements 91 centimeters away from the doorknob. So here's his body's hand, and here's his energy or his source or his soul's hand. So he has to navigate the world to open the door, to make coffee. He goes to work and he has to sit 91 centimeters beside his desk to type. Mm-hmm. And the reason it's such a powerful metaphor, because we're all doing that to some extent. And when we navigate, and it's white noise because it happened when we were children, you know, we become so accustomed to navigating this world outside of our true selves, according to what society says, you know, without the courage to be disliked.
Yeah.
We navigate our worlds outside of ourselves and it exhausts us. Mm-hmm. And we don't even see we're doing it to ourselves. But the health consequences, the career consequences, the happiness consequences, because when you experience this, or even this, the things that you start to see in your life, all of the thinking of navigating the world according to what everybody else said was true, which is all made up. You know, you can, whatever degree you're comfortable with seeing that is made up, just take a look for yourself. What is actually true? I don't know where I was going with that. It felt inspired. It felt inspired.
That's the best place to go, is always with the inspiration.
Audra's cracking up. She's like, the squirrel is back. I have a business manager now and I nicknamed him my squirrel cage. Because I'll shut up for a second. You can redirect me. You can be my squirrel cage, Grace.
Just in case you go there. Well, what I was going to share actually, just when you were talking, is what strikes me in what you're sharing is, you know, getting that distance. You know, I think I've experienced this, Karen, what you're talking about, this closing, this gap, getting this distance. You know, I noticed at some point on my journey that my whole thought system was revolving around, how am I doing? How are we doing now? How are you feeling? Oh, well, you feel like this on Tuesday. Well, you're going to feel like that on Thursday. So you best cancel that appointment or that party or that dinner date on Thursday. A constant hypervigilance, watching of self that was going on, that literally had me living in an experience of tension. And I didn't know I was holding tension. Now, I had lower back pain. I had niggles and wiggles left, right, and center, neck and everywhere, shoulder blade. But that fell away. Like those symptoms, Karen, and maybe we can talk about this now in a sec, but those symptoms fell away quite automatically. When I started noticing the dialogue in my head, and I remember very specifically that I was in a group in a room of people, lovely, lovely people that you could trust, people that were loving and lovely, and I couldn't connect with them. You know, and I was supposed to be the confident one, city girl confidence. And I was feeling myself at that time unable to reach out to these people, unable to connect with these people. And during the course of that weekend, you know, my mind got quiet. What I heard you talk about when you got that gap, you got quiet, the white noise fell away. And that's what I experienced too, was that my mind shut up for a minute about myself. And I went from wondering if my shoes and my bag and my colors measured up to everybody else's in the room, to actually hearing what people were saying and having a feeling of deep connection with them. And as a result of what I might describe as dropping out of that self-consciousness, oh God, I hope they like me. Oh God, I hope I get accepted in this group of people. You know, oh God, I hope the teacher doesn't ask me a question in case I get it wrong and I look like an idiot. In the space of falling out of that self-consciousness, what occurred for me too was an easier time connecting with people, attracting, if you want to call it that, opportunity and clients versus repelling them. And more importantly, a sense of well-being, a lack of tension in the body. You know, so my kind of closing the gap, at least how I see it, Karen, was getting a bit of distance from the incestuous, judgmental, comparative dialogue that had been running the system in my head. You know, can you talk a little about, you know, you said earlier about, you know, the hypervigilance and the relationship to health and body. You know, could you speak a bit to that, given what I've just shared?
Yeah, I'll start with a story, because it's not just about health and body, it's about everything. It's like the law about how things work. I had a client once who came to me, and she came to me actually for a health reason, but she started sharing with me about her relationship with her daughter. Now, she had a tumultuous relationship with her mom, and she swore to herself that would never happen with her and her daughter. So from the time her daughter was old enough to walk and understand language, she started working on her relationship with her daughter. Like, worked the program, you know, they went to counseling. She wanted to be a good mom, and she just basically made up what being a good mom was and how to connect with her daughter. Because obviously it didn't happen with her mom, this natural connection. So she made up what it was going to take. Like, connecting with your children is work, and you got to work at it. And she did all of these courses. She dragged her daughter on retreats with her, you know, all this stuff, Love 2.0, all the books, all the counseling, whatever. So by the time she was 16, and she was coming to me with health issues, but it came out, she's like, I don't know what to do. You know, we don't get along. It breaks my heart and whatever. And she kind of told me the story. And I said, why do you think it's up to you to form a connection with another human being? The same thing that makes the trees bloom in spring and lose their leaves in fall and beats your heart and grows babies and heals wounds. And, you know, that thing is doing human connection. You know, before human beings could speak language, parents knew how to parent. Have you ever seen a lion and its cubs, or a whale and its things? The whale doesn't look back to see if the kids are still following it, you know? And all of a sudden, it was like, oh my gosh, something clicked, and she just stopped trying. And in the stop, like you were saying, Grace, in the stopping of the efforting and what she made up required her to connect with another human being, especially her daughter, close the gap. Here she is, and here's who she made up that she ought to be in order to make a connection. And when the gap closed, instant connection. You know, she became the whale and her kid became the calf. The calf, you know, just wanted to follow her around and be with her. And it was instantaneous. Like over a couple days, and it didn't require words. It was a feeling. The daughter had a feeling. She wasn't, there was no tension, right? There was no tension between who she was and who she made up, who she ought to be.
See, I find that very hopeful as well. If I can just share with the audience, like, that is hopeful, that it's not about years. Closing the gap is not about years of work. You know, like,
no, and it's a great, so that people might be saying, okay, that's great. Okay, I got to close the gap. Well, how do I do that? I've been doing it one way. You don't have to do it. It's natural. It's like Like we hold balloons underwater of what we've made up we need to do to get the balloons to come to the surface. You know, what kind of parent we need to be, what kind of business person we need to be, how we need to eat, how we need to look. You know, it's like holding all these things under the water in order to get balloons to surface. It's natural for the balloons to pop up out of the water and for our knowing, you know, but can it really be that simple that it just takes us letting go? It really is. It just seems like so opposite of everything we've talked, that life requires all this effort, and it doesn't. It's like I said, the powerful thing that holds the earth and the planets in orbit and heals your wounds will tell you how to connect and will heal your body. And how you know you're doing it is all negative emotion. Okay, so I'm going to geek out for a second because this will kind of show you why letting go is a non-negotiable, and not only a non-negotiable, nothing that you have to do. Because once you start seeing the things you've been making up in your head about how life needs to be lived and what you need to do to connect with people or for people to like you, it's all made up. So your nervous system has I close my eyes so I don't squirrel. Your nervous system has a gas pedal and a brake, okay? Also called the sympathetic and parasympathetic, okay? But there's not gonna be a quiz, just the gas pedal and the brake, okay? There's certain chemistry associated. Now, your natural state is neutral. Like the autonomic nervous system, automatic, it does everything for you, is constantly trying to get back to the brake, the rest and digest, the neutral, you know, put the car in neutral. That's where homeostasis is. That's where healing occurs. And on another level, that's where human connection happens. When we're both in our rest and digest, when we're in our rest and digest autonomic part of our nervous system, the brake, okay? Now, we spend all our life in sympathetic because every time you're trying to get somewhere, you're stressed out about what people think about you, or if you're doing it right, or am I wearing the right clothes, or saying the right things, or having the right career, whatever. You're in your sympathetic nervous system. That hypervigilance comes with the sympathetic nervous system. All negative emotion. So sympathetic is your fight or flight, right? You've heard about that, your gas pedal. Now there's certain states of being where it's necessary. Getting up in the morning, you know, the get up and go, the gas and the brake, your body does it all for you. It's automatic. It's autonomic nervous system all day long. It's when we're slamming on the gas all day long, trying to effort our way through life, that you start feeling the negative emotions come with it. And after negative emotions for a long time, your body starts giving you aches and pains and tension. And if you ignore those symptoms, then you start getting illness. But the body is constantly trying to wake us up and tell us to lay off the gas pedal. So the first thing you start feeling is negative emotion. Why negative emotion? Is because negative emotion is part of our survival system. Now I'm going to just go through this bit and I'll leave it open to questions because I'm giving you a lot of information, but hopefully it makes sense in the end. So all negative emotion comes from when we have our foot on the gas pedal slammed on. Why? That's our fight or flight nervous system. Our body and our brain is designed for our survival. So the sympathetic nervous system, the gas pedal, is trying to make you survive. It's trying to run from the tiger or go find shelter, or, oh my gosh, you know, there's going to be a storm. We need to collect food, you know, that kind of thing, right? You get the point. So you have kind of like a psychological immune system. When the gas is down, you're externally focused to find the danger. Now, there aren't tigers and there isn't a storm coming and we don't need to find food and shelter. So the brain looks for what we've made up as dangerous. People not liking me, my mother-in-law, my coworker, you know, my symptom. Oh, that's danger, you know? So we become hyper-focused on our external environment and keep ourselves in the sympathetic nervous system. Now, your body, like the balloons always wanting to pop to the surface, you hold the balloons underwater when you're externally focused like that. When you just see that all negative emotion is just the bumpers on the side of the road. It's just the body. It's just the nervous system trying to wake you up to where you're at. You don't have to do anything about it. All you have to do is recognize, let the emotion guide you back. You don't have to do anything. You just take your hand off the wheel, your foot off the brake. And the first thing you're looking for is a feeling of relief. Because as soon as you take your foot off the gas, you don't have to do anything. It's like, oh, okay, I'm frustrated. Oh, I'm nervous. I'm resentful. I feel scared. I feel whatever, but I don't have to do anything about it because my automatic nervous system is going to get me back in balance all on its own. Like when you shake up a snow globe, you don't have to keep tilting it to get it to settle. It does it all on its own. And how do you know you've stopped tilting it? There's a feeling of relief. As soon as you feel frustrated, but relieved that I don't have to do anything about frustration, or scared, but I don't have to do anything. It's normal to feel scared. My body is on my side. My nervous system's on my side. It's telling me I'm off course. It's telling me I've got the gas pedal down and I can let it up. Mm-hmm. And very quickly the balloon will go back to the surface.
Yeah.
And that's where healing occurs. That's when you close the gap. Mm-hmm. When you just recognize relief. So you're holding this apart. Relief. That's where it starts to close.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, that's how to handle, what it feels like when the whole world is watching you, which is what some of my clients get concerned about if they're posting themselves on social media or they're, out there in the public eye, But what I hear in that is the freedom of leveraging just not being afraid of the feeling, it's that simple. And I certainly have felt that, as the journey has gone on, is that freedom of mind around the experience you're having or the feeling you're in. Whereas before I would have been very, 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 very concerned about what mood I was in, what feeling I was in, what was happening, what wasn't happening. So I definitely relate, Karen. Since it's Valentine's Day, would it be a good moment? And I mean, we can go whatever direction. I mean, you can decide. But since it's Valentine's Day, I'm wondering, should we go in the direction of this idea? Well, no, we had promised we were going to talk about why being full of yourself is the only way, or is the only way to truly love another. Do you want to touch on that a bit and see where we go?
Yeah, hang on, I got something on my screen. If I had a couple of hours, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. Okay, but because I can explain, I love the mysterious and the mystical and the the woo-woo stuff, but I'm a scientist at heart. So like, for instance, because I might get a little bit woo-woo, but there's this dude, Neville Goddard, Napoleon Hill writes kind of something similar, but I read that and I'm like, okay, I got it. But David Bohm, the quantum physicist, or the physicist David Bohm, and all the experiments. So I had to go. So if he's like, feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled and how things, that's kind of like Napoleon Hill's shtick. But I needed the science behind it. I needed to understand the quantum behind it, and that, okay, now I buy into that. So the reason I'm telling you that is I might say some things that sound kind of out there, but I don't say shizzle unless I can prove it scientifically, because why would I just take somebody else's word for that? I've been doing that my whole life. I need to know how this stuff works. So ask the question again, Grace.
Oh, I think I've forgotten it. Oh, no, wait, I can go, hang on. You see, I'm being very practical. I can go back to the copy that we wrote. Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to us a bit of, well, we can both talk, but I'm taking the lead here with the question. Talk to us, please, Karen. Yes, about why being full of yourself is the only way to truly love another.
There is no, everybody's heard, we're all one. There is no difference, we're all one being, whatever. But people don't really understand how true that is. There is no separation. We're all, it's kind of like the energy that's looking out of my eyes at all of you And the energy that's looking out of all of your eyes at me is the same energy. You know, it's all the same thing. So whether your word for that is source or true nature or God or whatever, or in just, you know, energy. When what we do to ourselves affects everything. You know, you can't disturb a flower without something, a star, you know, I can't remember the thing, but you get my point. When we're taught when we're kids, sacrifice, you know, it's good to sacrifice. You're rewarded for sacrifice. That's how you get into heaven, or what, you know, whatever you were taught as a kid. So we spend our lives draining ourselves, saying no to ourselves to say yes to other people, even when it doesn't feel right. And we drain ourselves our whole life. But there's only one law. Nature works the same. And it's just like when a tree gets a virus or a lightning strike or a bang, it will isolate the bang so that the rest of the tree can flourish. Nature work, you see this all over in nature, and we're the same. When we are draining from, I'll just call it the web, okay? This energy of web and draining ourselves, then nature wakes us up with negative emotion first, and then it makes us up with tension in our bodies, and then it tries to wake us up with, get back, you know, fill yourself up, because then you're expanding, evolving to the energy of the whole. Eventually it'll make you sick, like the tree will isolate, and it'll get you sicker and sicker and sicker. So you can't, to wake you up. So you relax, will ya? Stop draining from the whole. But when you start to fill yourself up, when you start to close the gap and look at the truth, when you start letting your life do you, instead of you constantly striving to do life, and bring that energy back to yourself, oh my gosh. Not only does the web want to reward, oh my gosh, she's onto something here, give her more energy. You will overflow when you start to adore yourself and bring that home, start saying no. I call it, you know, just be in integrity with who you are and what you want first, saying no when you mean no, and yes to things you really want to do, but maybe you didn't because you felt guilty. When you start filling yourself up and adoring yourself, oh my gosh, watch what happens. Not only to your physical body and the energy, but the altruism. When you're happy, when you have champagne taste about your mood, you overflow into other people instead of taking what limited energy you have and giving it. It's like you tap into the energy, the source within all of us. You tap into something very powerful. And when you do that, yeah, you can love other people. You know, when you're self-loathing, I don't think that's true, that you know, you've said that before, Grace. We all get down on ourselves. You know, I think it's just like a natural human thing. It's human, you know, we all do. But when you make it your priority, your mood, your good feeling, your good emotion and priority, look out. I mean, it's why I'm like squirreling all the time. I want to share this stuff. You know, my life has gone just from the age of 37 to what I was like 2011, that first major gap closed, you know, and I keep seeing where I'm out of integrity with myself. I just want to vomit love on everybody, you know, like when I'm in that good feeling, when I have champagne taste about my mood, you can't help but to adore others when you're adoring yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you? Where do you see it?
Well, I think it's what I naturally started to experience as I got distance from that dialogue. You know, it became less about self and more about service. And I share this a lot with my clients, because when they get stuck with their business and they're trying to get clients and they're trying to make money and they're trying to make a business, you know, that's back to that energy that you're describing, Karen, of, forcing and trying and efforting, and something about getting the distance from the dialogue, as I would describe it, drops us out of self and into service. which I'm hearing is, dropping out of self and into love. You just want to give it to everybody. And so on my own journey too, and, I keep relating back to that because that's all I got is to share with you the truth of that. In dropping out of that and closing that gap on self-consciousness, we're just moved to spread the love, spread the message, spread the insights, and you can't stop it. Again, we don't have to do it. We don't have to do it. And it's so innocent, though. And I was speaking to a couple of people this week who were just getting really caught up in feeling vulnerable about sharing themselves online, and feeling like the whole world's watching them, and feeling they don't, what do I say? I've so much in me, but I don't know what to say. And it's like, as we get freedom of mind from that story, and take the foot off the gas, as I heard you describe it, Karen, as we get freedom of mind and take the foot off the gas, that's a recipe for love and service and success, So that's how I see it. That's how I'm hearing it. And you're right, we stop repelling. I mean, that was significant in falling into a space of grace. We start attracting more, you really start calling in, without pushing it, but just calling in opportunities that, frankly, our limited mind can't make up. I mean, we're all putting ourselves in a tiny little box. And yet what life has available for us when we're less concerned about self is so huge. And I find this really hopeful, Karen, and everybody. I find it so hopeful that it really is true. It's not just a load of crap from notes from the universe. The universe has got your back.
Yeah, I can prove it. Here, Grace, I'll just put some science behind the lovely spiritual woo-woo you just shared. I'd like to make the distinction about what you were saying. There's another book called The Courage to Be Disliked. It's about Adlerian psychology. And the premise of that philosophy or psychology is all problems. So whether you want it, health problems, or whether you want to call it fear of pressing record on a Facebook Live, or it's not record, going on a Facebook Live or doing all problems, everything are interpersonal problems. That's a big line to swallow, but that means that all of our problems are only due to the fact that there's other people here, right? If you were alone in the world, of course there wouldn't be, anyone to Facebook Live to, but if you were alone in the world and say you had a low energy level, or say you were sick, all right, would you even know? Now, nature wouldn't take over and it would make you tired to go lay down and rest and whatever, but would you even know that something was wrong if there wasn't anyone else around you, right? If there were nobody to compare yourself to or bounce off of, would you even know what insecurity is? Would you even have insecurity if there were no other people? Now, when you spend some time with this thought experiment, like throughout a couple times a day, if there was no one else, if everybody I knew was dead, all right, would this matter? And yeah, I'd be really sad and whatever. That's not the point. If everybody you knew didn't have eyes on you, would any of this matter if you didn't have anything to compare it to? Now I'm going to try to bring this on home to a shadow of a coherent point. Okay. I wanted to make that distinction because we think that loving ourselves is not letting somebody get away with something. Somebody wronged me, somebody did something to me, so I'm going to keep my attention because I'm betraying myself if I don't hold my attention on that wrong, or if I don't hold my attention on that comparison. Okay, like all negative emotion, if I don't hold my attention on that, then I'm not going to be able to get through it, or I'm going to condone what that person did to me. I know I'm squirreling off, but because it could be applied to anywhere. If I don't focus my attention on that, if I forgive them and remove my attention for what was done to me or that bad feeling, then I'm going to either condone it or miss something important about what I need to do about it, whatever. But it's back to front. The opposite is actually true, because when you take your attention off of that, you reclaim your mood. Your champagne taste about your mood comes from where you're focusing your attention. Attention is everything down to a quantum level. Little tidbit of quantum physics to show you how this works. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, okay? If you look at a hummingbird, okay, so it works the same on a microscopic quantum level as like when you're looking at a hummingbird and you can't see its wings, right? It's flapping, you can't even see the wings, they're going so fast, right? And you take a picture, you stop it in time, you focus your attention on that one moment of time, the wings appear. Well, quantum physics works the same way. Like we've got it, there's a nucleus.
Oh goodness, the pen and the pad's coming out, ladies. Okay. Brace yourselves. Brace yourselves.
It works like particles and waves, okay? These are waves of energy, and we're made up of this stuff. The world, everything is made up of this stuff, okay? It's all waves, okay? Until we put our attention on something and it becomes a thing. Like the hummingbird's wings are moving so fast, there's nothing there. It's just energy until you stop it and focus your attention on it. Oh, there's one. It comes into existence. So when you're focusing your attention on your mood, oh, there's fear here, or oh, and if I put my attention off the fear, off the insecurity, I might miss something important about it. No, if you take your attention off, it will cease to exist.
Yeah.
If you take your attention off, you're taking your foot. See, I can tie all these things together, but it would take a long time. But I hope you're getting kind of the gist of how it's all similar. Taking your attention off something bad will not only take your foot off the brake and return you to your autonomic nervous system, it'll close the gap. So the more you focus your attention on insecurity, we're all get insecure. But waking up to the fact that, ooh, I don't like this mood, I don't like this feeling, and then the relief of just taking your attention off of it. And you don't have to do anything about it because the balloon wants to come to the surface all on its own. I know I squirreled off. Is this kind of coming together? Where we focus our attention, we are powerful, powerful creators down to a quantum level. We're made of this stuff. We turn waves into particles. We turn thoughts to things by keeping our attention on them. This is quantum physics stuff that's been done since the 1920s, and the stuff that they even, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. There'll be a part two. Email me. But yeah. Is this making sense? Maybe ask me a question if it's not. Grace, to bring it.
Well, let's, yeah, I mean, it is to me, but I think let's open it up to the floor, and maybe we can just, hear what people are hearing or wanting to question, Karen, if something isn't clear, or if you want to hear something a little more deeply, ladies, and gents, is there anything or anything coming up somebody would like to ask a question on? Or anything that's on your mind that you'd like to come forward on?
Yeah, thanks, Dominic. I love how you bring the science. This is page 1, chapter 1, but all of the stuff that we read about, I like deliberate creation, that we are creating our reality, that thoughts become things, whatever. It's already been proven, just people aren't linking the science behind The Secret or the science behind law of attraction.
Joe. Okay, Joe, here we go. Let's unmute you. And here we go.
Hi.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, you're right. Thanks for the webinar. It's amazing. I just wanted to ask a quick question just to clarify something, because it's kind of a situational thing. Like, I got a text today from my sister asking me to talk to her, to help her, because she's got a lot of problems. And due to like stuff when we were growing up, my initial reaction is frustration and anger and, oh, like, you know, you're older than me, you always come first, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And that obviously comes with a negative feeling. And so obviously what you guys are saying is like, take your mind off the negative feeling. But then I don't know, like obviously the loving thing to do is to help her. But I have a lot of resistance to that. And I don't know whether that's something that I should just let go because it's a negative feeling, or whether helping her isn't the right thing to do. But like, surely helping her is the right thing to do, but I don't want to do it. If that's making any sense.
Yeah, I can. Do you want me to speak to that, Grace, or you?
Sure.
I have an immediate example. I have an old friend who he developed a certain kind of dementia recently. Young guy, he's like, I think 50 or something like that. I lost touch with this person years ago because of the constantly negative. Just, it was just kind of like a toxic thing. Reconnected, and he's a comedian, right? So he's funny about it. Like that's his professional job, is he's a comedian. So he's funny about it, but I just felt my mood going down. Now he gets sick and he's telling me about sick. I'm there. I give him resources. Try this book, try this, whatever, this document, this, all this stuff. This is what I do for a living, right? I know the world's best stuff for his particular kind of dementia. And he just didn't do any of the things that, and he's early stages. It's not like he's not, you know, he's out of it. Like, it's like, he's just forgetting. I gave him all of these resources and whatever. And then he didn't take me up on them. And then I just felt like my energy was being drawn. And so I don't talk to him anymore. Actually, I do. And I'm not saying not to talk to your sister, but I'm saying I have champagne taste about my mood, because I see how I can make a difference in the world for other people if I put myself first. Because am I going to let one person suck the life out of me and then I can't help everyone else? Or give him resources. He is on his own journey. Everybody else, all the people that we think it's not compassionate not to help, they're on their own journey. And how arrogant of us to think that they don't have the same thing in them that we have in us that will wake them up. They're on their own road. They're on their own journey. To me, I see that my job is to be there to give resources, but not to let, you know, it's like your friend falls over off the boat into the water. Reach out to help them, reach the hand out to help them. But if they start pulling you off the boat, you got to let go, but you're still there in the boat when they're ready. If this guy, you know, this old dear friend, if he wants to pick up all the resources or ask me questions about them, hey, I'm interested in this now. I'm all in. I'm all in, you know, but it's not complicated. Just have champagne taste about your mood and the feeling that comes with it. You know, and let that feeling help you navigate that situation.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thanks.
Joe, can I just pick up on something that you said and just see if it helps at all too?
Yeah, go for it.
Now, do say if you'd rather not, because you don't have to have two perspectives.
No,
here.
It's fine. Yeah, no, I'm interested. Yeah.
So what I heard in your question was a kind of should I, shouldn't I? You know,
Yeah.
oh, I should help her, but don't really want to. So it becomes a kind of pendulum of should I, shouldn't I? And in my experience, when it's that, you know, it's not necessarily coming from your truth, your wisdom. It's coming from that, well, I suppose, Karen, we would say coming from that, I should be a good girl. If I don't do it, this might happen. So what's been really helpful for me when I find should I, shouldn't I kind of thinking is to just back off a bit and see what occurs to me, not immediately, but as I stop sort of swinging on it, you know, as I stop kind of getting stuck on the pendulum. And one of the things you said was about, you know, I hear you ladies talking about, you know, just to take your mind off it. And you know, and I wanted to share within that, you know, if anyone else is hearing, just take your mind off it. If you leave it alone, your mind will come off it, right? It's not like, we're certainly not saying, just take your mind off insecurity. Just take your mind off, you know, your recent car crash. You know, what we're pointing to here is, you know, if you can get comfortable being in the discomfort of feeling insecure, or feeling like you have to make a decision right now, or feeling like you have to be a certain way, then soon enough you're not paying attention there, and your mind naturally comes off it. It's not even something you have to do. So just wanted, you know, I know those are two separate points, but I just wanted to share. Is that helpful at all, Joe, or do you hear anything there? And please say it if no, Grace, you've confused me if I have.
No, that does make sense. Yeah. It was it was the way that I said it kind of sounded like that, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, I love what you just shared, Grace, too, because it's like all of that should, like, even the question, Joe, comes from, you know, past and future. You know, all the resources for you to know what to do in any relationship, you know, whether it's a friend or a family member or a coworker or whatever, is available to you in the moment. But when you try to predict an outcome or what's going to happen, you get into that shoulding, you get into that gap, you know, it's not, you will know, just like in the moment, you know, when to eat, when to cross the street, you know, how to keep yourself safe, you know, that in the moment intelligence is available to you when the phone rings and it's your sister, you know, so you don't have to, like Grace said, I love what you said, because you don't even have to spend any time up there until it's time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the freedom of this, ladies and gents. You know, that the freedom of this is that you get to just back off your judgmental, scary, insecure thinking for a minute, and your answer arises. You know, you literally start taking your mind off it very gently. Lorraine, I see you have your hand raised. Would you like to come on and ask a question?
Yeah.
Hey.
Hi. Okay, did I just take myself off the thing? Sorry.
That's okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh, geez, Louise, I'm so sorry. Hey, would you guys talk more about, first of all, I'm really loving this. Thank you so much for this topic. And Karen, for your science on it, because I'm very much into the science too. I talk a lot about quantum physics, so just you condensing it just gave me some way to share it with my audience. But can you talk more about being full of yourself? That topic just really intrigues me, because we come from a society that's like, oh, no. Or they're like, no, you should be full of yourself. But as soon as you do, then you're in jail. People don't like you and they get jealous and all this kind of stuff. I would just love to hear you expound on being full of ourselves, because I really do believe that this is how we're supposed to be too. But we get condemned for doing it often. So I would just love to hear a little bit more in depth on this from you too.
Thanks. You want to start, Karen?
Yeah, well, it goes back to the Adlerian thing, right? If there weren't other people, we wouldn't have a choice but to be full of ourselves. If we were never told, you know, that that's not good. I love Anita Moorjani. Do you know that name?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I use her in my teaching, and she kind of woke me up to a lot in my life. But I saw her lecture once, and she talked about this web when she went over, you know, she had her near-death experience, and she says, fear was the disease, cancer was the symptom. So what you're talking about is actually, I'm fear of what other people will think, you know, fear of being thrown in jail or somebody not liking me or whatever. She talks about how we're all connected by a web, and she grew up in the culture, you know, take from yourself, and not only take from yourself and be subservient and take from yourself and sacrifice from your family, but she would take from herself with her fear of getting ill and doing things right and karma and all this other stuff until she got sick. But once she has this near-death experience, she's like, oh my gosh, it's back to front. It's all back to front. It's all love. It's all about being full of myself. And her freaking cancer goes away without further intervention. She's actually dead, she wakes up again, and her cancer's gone in 30 or 60 days, whatever, without further intervention. That's, to me, that's the proof and why it's a non-negotiable. And when you start having champagne taste about your mood and being full of yourself first, the people, there's nothing to do, because your tribe will be attracted to you. You know, you might lose relationships, but the ones that I've lost by living this way more and more, it's like, oh, what a relief. You know, I don't have to do that anymore.
This is what's happened for me. The one I lost was my son and daughter-in-law and my 4 grandkids. That's been a big one for me, but it's being full of myself and just getting rid of that resistance from them. It's been a huge Adlerian lesson. I have to align with myself. Sorry you don't like it. Sorry you don't approve.
You know, Grace, what would you?
Yeah, so what was coming to my mind as you were talking was, you know, if you think about babies, Lorraine, like they're totally full of themselves. You know, like they're going in and out of moods all day long, and they really don't have any judgmental thinking about it, you know, and they're not worried about what other people think of them being in a really screaming, like, get me my dinner mood. So, you know, I think it is who we are actually before we learn to listen to the dialogue of self-concern and judgment and comparison. The other piece that was coming to mind there was, you know, there's a feeling that comes with full of yourself. And then there's another type of feeling that comes with being full of yourself. So I give you this example, like when I was growing up in Northern Ireland, and people would say all the time, oh, she's full of herself, what a bitch.
Right.
Not about me personally, but I'm sure they did. But in general, she's full of herself, what a bitch. You know, like it was a real bad thing to be full of yourself. But if you're coming from a feeling of, you know, love and appreciation and acceptance and kindness, that's a full of yourself that people just want to see more of, want to be around. If you're coming from a feeling of, you know, I'm all that and you're beneath me, and you know, I know better than you, that's a different feeling. So people smell it.
Yeah, it's like the difference between being full of shit and being full of God, you know?
Yeah, people feel it. So just, you know where you're coming from. And remember the baby.
Yeah, it's not a haughty, I'm better. It's like a very actually neutral thing.
Yeah. I think society has confused it with a haughty type thing. That's why we've all heard, don't be too much, don't be too full of yourself, you know, don't be this, don't be that, because society has misinterpreted that, you know, as the opposite feeling. Well, this is lovely. We could totally keep going, Karen and I mean, but it's Valentine's Day and I have a date. So it's evening here. You know, happy to go another few minutes if there's another question, and then maybe we'll call it a day and leave it at that. Is there another question out there, ladies? Anybody else got something that they'd like to ask or share? If you want to come on, you're welcome to.
I have, if there isn't any, I have one, like a parting gift.
Go ahead.
I wrote a piece recently called Thirsting for Integrity. And it was, I went to a Japanese restaurant with my kids, and I was sitting there, and it was really, really busy. And I felt so sorry for this waiter. He comes along with this tray of water, of ice water, right? And I wasn't thirsty, but for some reason I made up that if I take some of his water, it'll make him feel better or something. I don't know, right? I'm making something up. And then I put the water down, and then I start looking at the water going, well, I better start drinking this because then he'll feel like he wasted his time on me. So I start drinking the water that I'm not thirsty for. And then I kind of wake up to the fact that, and I turn to my daughter, Sophia, she's 12, she's the only adult in the house. And I go, I'm drinking this water and I'm not thirsty. And she's like, why would you do that? I'm like, I have no idea, because I didn't want the waiter to think he was wasting his time on me. So that was kind of like this, because the point is, we keep finding gaps. Like I keep seeing this, and I'm kind of so funny, and it's so, for the rest of my life, I will keep, I'm excited to see where I'm out of integrity with myself. Where's the next thing? So at the end of the blog, I wrote, before we take marriage vows to anybody, we should take them to ourselves first. I, Karen, take me to be my forever love. I promise to be true to you in sickness and health, in poverty and wealth, all the days of my life.
That's beautiful.
And maybe the parting gift on this Valentine's Day is say some vows to yourself and see what happens.
Beautiful. Thank you. I love that. That's a perfect parting gift. Ladies, we will post the replay in the group. And if you've heard something, or if you want to check out what Karen and I are up to, you're welcome to email us. If there's a conversation you'd like to have, go a little bit more deeper, or to explore some sort of direction together, just get in touch. So my email is gracefulcoaching@gmail.com. And I think many of us are friends on Facebook. If we're not, do feel free to add me. Karen, where can people reach you?
Yeah, likewise. Just Karen@KarenDemarco.com, or Facebook's good too.
Great.
Lovely to see all the familiar faces and all the new ones.
Lovely to see you all, ladies. Have a really great Valentine's and lots of love.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.